Hey everyone, welcome back to the Weekly Awakening Podcast. This is your host, Cosmic Colleen, back with another weekly astrology update. And happy 2025! Yay! We're in 2025. WTF. 5 years since COVID. It's crazy. COVID feels like, I don't know. Well, we know it feels like a lifetime away in some ways, but it also feels like it was just around the corner. And each year, it's like that pivotal marking point. I'm like, wow, 5 years since everything changed and everything stopped. It's kind of surreal, but I'm here to talk about the astrology of the week and the beginning of 2025. What can we expect? What can we look like? I want to give my listeners an extra thank you. It has actually now been that means 5 years since I started this podcast. So yeah, 2025. I released the podcast. It was January 7th of 2020. So 5 years I have been working on this bad boy. And that was back when it was the Hair Healer podcast. I recorded with my clients at the salon about their lives, and I made it 5 years. I might not be where I thought I would be 5 years ago, but I'm pretty fucking proud because most people start a podcast and they do not ever finish it or they don't persevere through it. I think there was some statistic I read somewhere that it was like after 5 episodes, people give up. And I'm like, wow, 5 freaking years. Thank you guys. Thank you for my listeners. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for all the people I love. What an amazing accomplishment. And I could not have done it without you guys, especially some of my day ones out there that I know you guys have been there from the very, very beginning. Holy shit. I'm extremely, I don't know, I was going to say proud of you, but I'm so happy for you and I'm blessed with you guys. So this past Monday, we had the new moon in Capricorn on the 30th. And like I said on last week's episode, it's really giving us a calm entrance into 2025, a very organized entrance into 2025, kind of a responsible entrance into 2025. It wasn't like an all-out party. Today, January 2nd, Venus enters Pisces at 10:24 p.m. Friday the 3rd, Mars, our buddy Mars, retrograde, goes opposite Pluto and Aquarius as it's getting ready to move back into Cancer. Then Saturday the 4th, the Sun in Capricorn will sextile Saturn in Pisces. Monday the 6th, Mars retrogrades back into Cancer, 5:44 a.m. Eastern time. Sorry I didn't give you guys the time on all of those. 8:55 a.m. that morning, just a couple hours later, so next Monday, Mercury in Sagittarius will square Neptune in Sagittarius. And then on Wednesday the 8th, Mercury enters Capricorn. Next Monday, don't plan for anything big. Definitely don't make that a day where you're like, I need to have this really organized meeting with all these people and try to make a bunch of stuff make sense. You're not going to want to do that Monday. You're definitely going to want to do that Wednesday. I can tell you that because Monday was going to feel slow, hazy, daisy. I'll talk about it when we get there on this episode, but definitely that's not a day to be get something very serious done. So let's talk about how we ended the year. Yes, the end of the year holidays is often stressful, tiring, all over the place. However, each year, I think we show up a little differently within it, depending on how the astrology is. And I talked about last week's, I guess it would have been 2 weeks I dropped that episode, the Christmas episode. And I pretty much hit the nail on the head. Tell me if I'm wrong, because everybody I know had an extremely lazy, hazy, daisy holiday. This year, we had Mercury stationing direct at the week and still in its shadow as it leaves out there the week before Christmas. And then it went off, and the week of Christmas, it went opposite Jupiter in Gemini, and then Jupiter squared Saturn. And again, we all kind of came to this very lazy, hazy stop. We didn't have enough energy to get dressed properly. We stayed in our PJs all day for most of us. I got sick, of course. I felt like and obviously when I got sick and then still having to do hair, I wore a mask behind the chair, but still having to do hair. By the time the holiday came, I didn't know who I was. I was in this weird sort of like otherworldly trance, which I'm sure a lot of with the astrology that week, I'm sure my mutable placements, Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius, I think we all were maybe extra like that. No extra energy. I mean, even on Christmas Day, we were going to go to church. I like to get my kids dressed up to at least take a photo. I didn't give a fuck. I didn't care. I didn't need a photo. I'm like, you know what? We have a million Christmas photos, especially ones all dressed up in front of the tree. I don't care. We tried to. We all looked a hot mess. I said, whatever. So Since we still are kind of zapped in today, we should yesterday probably start feeling that energy a little bit more. This coming new moon in Capricorn, we're ending the year with definitely a grounded new beginning. And again, if you want to know a little bit more, especially my Capricorn placements, go and listen to last week's episode. And I talked a lot about Capricorns. And for any of you listening, if you got some Capricorn friends, maybe send it to them too. For most of this year, isn't going to be a very, the beginning of oh my God, what am I trying to say here? The beginning of this year, for the most part of it, is not going to be very wild. It's going to be not like high energy. It's going to be sort of wild, low energy, more low key and lazy. Like I said, with the new year, the beginning of the year, I talked about this on the new moon last week, but this new moon is again getting our shit in order, things we have to do. Something funny that I end up doing that came out of nowhere. First of all, we're still in the energy. The new moon is out of Capricorn, but we're still in that first week, that new year. So if you didn't already with this new moon, it's a good time to make tea, sit calmly, create your manifestation list for 2025. Go for a low-key hike, reorganize your bedroom somewhere in your house, do a low-key financial budget, organize something you've been putting off for months, do a nice skincare regimen. We're not even Mercury retrograde. I'm getting my words all mixed up. So that is how we are bringing in this week. And if you're getting a chance to do it this week, do it this weekend. Now, funny how this new moon showed up for me. One of the things I didn't realize, one of my kids is really, really struggling with OCD and germs. It's been pretty bad, and it's reared its very ugly head this year in school, at home, and all the other things. And so he was laying in his bedroom after some outbursts to calm down. And so I went back, and he was reading. I went back in there with sage and to do a little prayer. And I didn't actually, my kids do give me shit when I do this. I do it with them, not every day, but probably once or twice a month, give or take. And they do fight with me, but I figured it's going into their mind somewhere. But this time he didn't fight with me. He laid there and he just allowed me, and he's a Capricorn moon, allowed me to just sort of sage him and pray on him and do this whole ritual, and he actually fell asleep. And then I did one with my other son, who has a lot of issues around confidence and believing themselves. And so I played this frequency at that time, and we did this. And this one, he sort of gave me a little shit about it, but for the most part, he did it. And we said out loud the confident statements that we need to make in order to believe in ourselves. And I was as I was doing this, I was oh my gosh, this is a funny little way that this Capricorn new moon is showing up, getting everything back together. Now, again, I'm getting into the rest of the transits of the week. I'm going to say one other thing. I did not come up with my word. You guys who have been listening to me for 5 years know that I have a word every year. That's what I focus on. Last year's word was, oh my God, why am I forgetting what last year's word were? Not unbreakable. Unbothered. That was it. Unbothered. And for the most part, I'm a pretty unbothered person, but I wanted to get to the ultimate level, like the ultimate monk level. And it's so funny how I said that, but the universe still kind of showed me these ways that I'm actually not quite unbothered. And it was a year of learning even more so how to be unbothered. And I think looking back a year later, that's why it's nice just to pick a word. Holy shit, I've gotten some pretty unbothered energy in me. So I'll be back next week with what my word is of the year again. I'm not sure what it is, but I did want to share my reflections of 2024. I've spent the last couple of years trying to find, my path, my career path. I'm always, I got a sun and Mercury in the 10th house of career. So career is very big to me. Work is very big to me, especially those of the mind or creating. And the last 5 years trying to find my path, figure something out, feel the need to always be accomplishing or visioning my accomplishments always. And in the last year, I've definitely finally learned to live with goals, but also understanding that oftentimes life is just about living and approaching the day to day with feeling that we don't need more than what shows up today. Be here now, especially in this constant striving culture that we're in, where obviously we need to work hard. And here in the USA, though, we have developed this culture where you aren't living if you aren't thriving for success in your goals every single day. A lot of us have become so obsessed that they lose the real living, the real thing about living that matters, and that is the day to day. It's the journey, not the destination, the tiny moments, the things where you feel lost. It's a delicate balance, obviously, because again, we do have to work. And I think there is good to have that sort of drive, that energy to success. And it's something, I set out for. But here, so many of us have been doing it wrong because we end up making that the number one priority and working a million hours and this and that and all the day-to-day life, all the beautiful magic that's happening. So many people here in the United States just toss it to the side. That doesn't matter. What matters is all my goals, so I can be the top person in my company, so I can be this, so I can be that. And every day we're pushing that aside, or we're constantly like, what's next? Maybe I need to go to this school. Maybe I need to do that. Maybe I need to do this. Maybe I need to do that. Instead of saying, hey, let me just show up in the day to day and appreciate life how it comes, because that is where the excitement is. 2 years ago on my arm, I got be here now on one side for other people, be here now on the other side for me. And I feel like I actually am finally there. For the most part, I've gotten over, like, I show up every day. I do the salon. I do the podcast. I do the astrology. It's been a year and a half pause on for the most part, a lot of social media for me, and I'm still okay with that. But be here now. And I feel like I'm truly, for the most part, within that, accepting that it's not the journey. It is the journey. It's not the destination. And so I welcome you in 2024 to stop. Yes, strive, have your goals, but stop making that your world. Stop obsessing over that. Live in today, be here now, because everything leads to wherever you're meant to be. That I know. And so all of these tiny shifts that have happened in the 5 years, and in some ways I'm still right where I am. So much amazing internal growth has happened that I'm so grateful that not everything went the way I thought it should, and that I'm sort of still, quote unquote, right where I am and where I've been. But within that, my life structure hasn't quite changed. So many beautiful things internally and around me and energetically have been so present, and I'm just very grateful for that. Okay, that's my thoughts. That's moving to 2025. Venus in Pisces on January 2nd. That is today. This is going to be big for my mutable placements. Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. Venus will stay in Pisces until February 3rd. Then she will enter Aries. And on March 1st, she begins retrograding in Aries and will retrograde back into Pisces on March 27th and stations direct on April 11th in Pisces. So pay attention to what happens in these next 2 weeks. Okay, that's going to be one, because we're going to be coming back to this point. All right, we're going to be coming back. There's going to be lots of themes that are happening, as you see. Even though it goes into Aries, it retrogrades back into Pisces. Not these next 2 weeks, a little bit, yes, these next weeks, but particularly the last 2 weeks of January until February 4th. Really pay attention to what happens, because that is going to be when Venus returns, and will retrograde back to that time. Venus will retrograde back to those positions, back to those degrees, back to those 2 weeks. So something that happens at the end of January to February 4th, there will be a revisit to, whether it's to change, shift, or maybe just to gain some different awareness, or maybe to come back around and fix. There will be this replay to those last 2 weeks. And again, what happens this week and today will be a general theme probably as well of this retrograde. Now, Venus is working at her best in Pisces. She's said to be exalted. And we also right now have Saturn in Pisces. So these two are going to be conjunct. Sign conjunct and then conjunct. Which happened in 2023 and 2025. And I think that it was 30 years, and it will also be 30 years, and she'll be retrograding, till the next time she retrogrades with Saturn in Pisces. So that's a very, very long time. So this is a big deal for my mutable placements and the place in our chart, where Pisces is, and any Pisces placements as well as my mutable placements. This is going to be a big transit. Like I said, Venus will not be retrograding again with Saturn for another 30 years. So this is going to be something that will be concrete that comes out of this, you could say. So here are some themes that may play. And remember, as this transit progresses, I will be there with all your information. A love story getting serious or finally landing where we want it to land with more serious tone. Big creative breakthroughs after long blocks. Opening up the dreamier, otherworldly side we have. Deep spiritual connection or connecting to deeper, more intuitive sides to yourself. Maybe that looks like you take on some sort of class, you take on some sort of guru, something that will really deepen your connection and leave you within that energy for many, many years. Finding a new deep beauty about yourself or a new self-love realization, getting out of some addicted behaviors like, hey, this thing is starting to really change my soul and I need to remove that. It's no longer bringing me that light freeness and that happiness. Getting more serious with an art project or a creative project or movements around that, or something creative is finally taking shape, or getting the proper funding or something like that you need to take it to the next level. Stay tuned though, again, with this transit, because this is going to be big. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more here in a few minutes when I talk about the sun sextiling Saturn in Pisces. We're going to tie it back to this. Now, Friday the 3rd, Mars retrograde in Leo goes opposite Pluto in Aquarius. This day will be important a few months down the road again, when this opposition happens again, only with Mars stationing direct and moving forward. Both planets will be in an opposition April 26th. So again, something coming around full circle. The first part of this is going to be about having your power questioned, undermined, weakened, challenged, dramatic flare-ups, rebelling in the wrong direction, not having the strength to fight against something, seeing a shadow that weakens you or something, that kind of weak spots inside of you. This is going to be the real kickoff to this Mars retrograde. Yes, Mars has been retrograding in Leo for a few weeks, but Mars does well in Leo. And I think when we have this opposition to Pluto and then retrogrades back into Cancer, we're really going to be feeling this Mars retrograde. We haven't felt anything yet, baby. Again, my fixed signs are going to be feeling this the most. That is my Aquarius signs, that's my Taurus signs, that's my Leo signs, that's my Scorpio signs. Also, Aries are going to be feeling this, Mars world sign. Those are going to be some of the big key players in this, and then Cancer and Capricorn. What comes up during this time is going to be the big themes playing out will be within our ego and our shadow. Both are going to be illuminated, and we're going to be doing physical changes. Instead of just thinking about it, it's actual physical changes we are going to be making. Okay, when we look to Mars, we look at following through. And again, physical changes, especially when Mars moves retrogrades back into Cancer, the sign of the moon, we are going to be making physical changes that we finally have needed to make. And within that energy, like I said, we're going to see the ego because it's happening in the two luminaries. We got the sun and the moon, and the shadow, the ego and the shadow. So this is how all of this is playing. Like, what is the drive behind the ego? What is the drive behind, your desire to be liked or to like someone, or your desire to or your fear of being judged? What is that? What is the underlying, right? I mean, if the ego isn't so up, then we can't always feel insulted. We can't always feel hurt. We can't always be so worried. So this is teaching us how to really get a hold of that, and also integrate your shadows, and maybe integrate both into each other. Mars retrogrades back into Cancer on Monday the 6th. Just like I said, next Monday it's a day that will be a very slow down time. There isn't going to be much effort, energy, or drive to get much done. Slow and steady wins the race. So just know that. So just relax, allow yourself to feel some emotions, but try not to react. But you may just feel depleted and like you don't have the energy or the drive to follow through. This transit with Mars and Mars and Cancer will feel a lot like that. Almost a little bit with Saturn and Pisces. However, you got these two trining each other at some point. So that means this slowdown, this pause is necessary. It has to happen. We're go, 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 go. Like I had said, so often we have to be forced to slow down in order to really see ourselves and see the changes that we need to make. Now, you already know what I'm going to say. like I just said again, let's allow the slow down, the pause to happen. We need to stop. We need to re-energize ourselves again and find a new way to go about certain things. The slowdown can also bring a pause to unhealthy habits. This may be a time where we are finally forced to uncomfortable feelings, like we finally have to see those uncomfortable feelings. And that's usually when we agree to make a change is when we're forced into uncomfortableness. So when it comes to our habits, we're going to finally feel uncomfortable about it, where we finally say, I don't want to feel this way anymore. And that could be like our eating habits. That could be smoking, drinking, sex, gambling, shopping, somewhere where we're finally sick of that feeling afterwards, where it just doesn't feel right, but we indulge. So we're going to be finally saying, I don't want to feel this way anymore. And when Mars stations direct, we will begin to live again, but with the same, but with better habits. Beginning to live again. And remember, progress, not perfection. Remember this, progress, not perfection. All self-healing, mental healing, anything that is changing, progress, not perfection. So this transit will be big change, but sometimes we're really making that concrete change, that physical change. Remember, physical things are going to be happening. We're going to finally take physical steps. Or this will finally be the big awareness, and then the future will lead to be chipping away at this. So progress, not perfection. And I think, again, we're really going to be feeling this Mars retrograde more when it ingresses back into Cancer. Then on Saturday, the Sun in Capricorn sextiles Saturn, its ruler, in Pisces, where Venus just entered. So this will, to tie back to what I said about Venus and Pisces, this will mark the beginning of getting more serious with that creative project that you're looking for, getting more serious with a life path. The early promise of things that come with solid ideas, solid funding, beliefs, allies. Your ideas are finally coming to life with stability. Boundaries in the workplace will start to take effect. Boundaries you start to place look promising when it comes to getting your life in order. This is what you need to do to face the consequences, in order to, you have to start seeing those boundaries being placed. And now you're feeling the good side of the consequences, and some other people might be feeling the bad side of the consequences. General energy of getting your life together again. So there's a lot of beginning of 2025 about getting our life together. I actually really enjoy that. I mean, sometimes the energy is there, but this year the energy is really there about getting our life in order, getting our life together. On the 6th, when Mars ingresses back into Cancer, Mercury will also be squared Neptune, like I said. So that day is going to be extra slow, lazy, hazy. You might want to avoid work or feel like a week of avoidance after, I just can't do it anymore. So please be gentle with yourself next week. Next Monday, next Tuesday, next Wednesday, it's going to be blah. I already made sure I have nothing to do next Monday. I can go to the gym, I can rest, I can take a nap if I want to. I'm off Mondays. And so I didn't schedule myself back to back. That's what I mean. We can't always change things how they show up, but hey, I didn't make myself 10 appointments back to back, something like that. I gave myself a very open day. And just because Mars retrograde back into Cancer, where things just go kind of wonky and you don't know which direction to take anything. And then Mercury will be squaring Neptune. Both will be direct, but it will still have that little bit of a feeling of Mercury retrograde and kind of not knowing where to place your thoughts, scattered all over the place. Whew. So that is the beginning of 2025. Again, thank you everyone who has supported this podcast over these last 5 years. The best way to support this podcast, because I'm fully self-supporting, fully funding. I don't ask for anything other than rates, reviews, sharing this with someone, posting it on social media. You guys constantly are doing that for me, and that's the best way to get this podcast out right now. So I appreciate it. I hope for all my listeners and everyone listening today that 2025 brings you every feeling you have wanted to feel. And any feeling that you feel is missing, I hope it brings it to you this year. I love you guys. Thank you again, and have an amazing beginning of the year. I'll be back next week.